Hi everybody, my name is Johanna Ali from Sewciety Jo, and I am so excited to be the October Sew Your View co-host. Last week, we printed out our pattern and we put it together. So if you have any questions on how to go ahead and do that, there is a highlight in the October 2020 folder on the Sew Your View Instagram account. So the video that I have recorded does not go over putting your PDF pattern together. We're gonna jump right into cutting out our fabric and sewing our stitches dress. So I really hope that you guys enjoy my sew along. All right, all of my pattern pieces are cut. I'm ready to start cutting my fabric. This is the fabric that I'm using. It's a chevron stretch knit. I'm going to fold my fabric in half with salvage edges meeting. And I'm doing this, I'm not even sure if this is how I'm gonna cut my fabric, but I'm gonna see how my pattern pieces fit. The front, I will cut on the fold, and the back will not be cut on the fold. So I believe I can fit both pattern pieces on my fabric, and that's awesome. So I've got my scissors, fabric scissors, and I've got my pattern weights, and we're gonna get to cutting. So I'm going to lay out my fabric nice and straight. I'm gonna move this down a little bit because I want to match up my underarms to try to do some pattern matching. So you want to go ahead and put your pattern weights down, and when you are cutting, you want to make sure that you transfer all your cutting marks. All right, let's go. All right, so the front, we're cutting on the fold, and we're only cutting one. And this is what it will look like. Oh, this is gonna be good. All right, my front pattern piece. And we cut the back. If you weren't aware, when you are cutting your pattern pieces, you want to make sure that you are holding your scissors down on whatever cutting surface you're using and then cutting. Don't cut with your scissors in the air. And the back we're cutting two. Let's cut our sleeves, and we're cutting two for our sleeves. Let me bring this down so you guys can see. Make sure that you transfer your notches. And here we go. We've got our two sleeves. I like to keep all my pattern pieces with the paper in case I need it. Next, so put your neckband on the fold your collar, and you're only going to cut one, and you're going to cut it on the fold. Alright, and now the only other pattern piece that we have left to cut out is our faux placket. And that does not get cut on the fold. So I'm going to go ahead. Since the grain line is this way, that means that I have to lay out my pattern piece a long way. So I'm going to take my fabric and open it up. I'm going to take my pattern piece and lay it down on the fabric. Let's see, we have enough, just barely. All right. I love this fabric. So now I'm going to go ahead and cut out my placket. And the placket specifically states faux button placket, cut one right side up. So my fabric is right side up, and I'm going to go ahead and cut that out the length of my fabric. Let's recap. We have our collar piece, one cut on the fold. We have two sleeve pieces, not cut on the fold. Then we have our pattern piece. Our back pattern pieces, we have two, not cut on the fold. And again, I took off 6 inches on the bottom. And we've got one of the front cut on the fold. And we've got our faux button placket. So let's go to the sewing machine and let's get started. I almost forgot a really important step. There is a line on the front pattern piece that we need to trace out onto our front bodice, because that is where we're going to place our faux button placket. So let's go ahead and let me show you how you can go ahead and trace that onto your dress. So you want to go ahead and lay that down now. It says on the pattern piece, button band location wearers the left side only. So it's going to be on this side. If you just place your fabric right side up, then you're going to go ahead and place the pattern piece here. And hold it down with your pattern weights. Okay, now we have to mark our button placket location on the front bodice of our dress. Make sure that you're doing it on the left side as it indicates on the pattern piece. Now what you're gonna do is, depending on how thick your fabric is, will determine on how you're gonna trace that line onto your fabric. You could use tracing paper, which honestly I tried before starting to record and that wasn't working. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna mark where the lines are with a pin. So that I know where to mark. And I'm gonna do this at the top and at the bottom of the dress, and then I'm just gonna connect the lines with my yardstick. Now I'm gonna use my marking tool. I've got this chalk here. And just start marking your lines. So the first step in starting to sew our citrus dress is that we are going to attach our faux button placket to the front bodice of our dress. Now here is what I found. It says to fold in a 1/2 inch on each side and sew. So here's what I did. I put basting stitches, just a few, just because I wanted to see. So at a 1/2 inch, I put a basting stitch, and on a 1/2 inch on the other side, I put a basting stitch. And what I found is when you fold the two together, they meet in the middle evenly, and that will give you the seam allowance that you need for your faux placket. So you could either, if you want to have it marked down as you press, go ahead and put in basting stitches on each side at 5/8 of an inch, or just fold them in half until they meet in the back and press down. I'm gonna go press this now, and I'll be back. Now I'm gonna go ahead and attach the placket to the front of my dress. Or I should say I'm gonna pin it to the front of my dress now. All right, let's go ahead and sew this down. So before I attach my back pattern pieces together, I am going to serge down the center back seam. All right, now what we're gonna do next, where it sides together, we are going to pin the center back with the center back. We are going to select the stretch stitch, and I'm going to start from the bottom up. And we're going to sew at a 1/2 inch seam allowance. All right. Right. I'm going to go press my seams open, and then we're going to attach the front to the back of the dress. I'll be right back. I have serged all remaining seams, the shoulders, and the two sides, and now I pinned the front and back together on all sides, and we're going to sew again at 1/2 inch seam allowance. Alright guys, the two side seams, like we have a dress going on. Now is the time that you want to go ahead and try on your dress to make sure that it fits, and I'm going to go do that now. So far, we have attached the front and back of the dress together at the shoulders and then the side seams. I went ahead and serged it. And what I'm gonna do next, the pattern does not instruct you, well, it says to sew at a 1/2 inch seam allowance all the way around. But normally, hemlines are larger. So I'm actually just gonna do a 5/8 seam allowance. And I'm gonna do the same thing for the sleeves before I attach them. So what I like to do is just sew a basting stitch of whatever your seam allowance is, so that'll give you a guide and you can go press it at that seam allowance. So it'll make it easier when it's time to hem it. So let me show you what I mean. I'm going to sew at a straight stitch, and I'm going to sew at the longest stitch. And I don't need to back stitch because I'm just using this as a measurement. So I'm gonna do the hem of the dress now so that I can just hem it, and I'm just gonna use 5/8 of an inch. There is no right or wrong. It's your dress, you make it how you want. So I'm gonna use 5/8. You can use an inch, you could do whatever you want. It's your creation. All right, so that's done. Next, I'm gonna actually put the main piece away, and we're gonna start working on our sleeve. So what you wanna do is put them right sides together, and we're gonna sew along the sides. Then I'm gonna go back to the regular, to the stitch that I was using before, which is actually a zigzag stitch. And I'm gonna go back down to my 1/2 inch. So now, after I attach the sleeve, which I will show you in a moment, I'm gonna go back to my sewing, to the, excuse me, to the iron, and I'm gonna press my seams, and then I'm gonna fold over where that seam that I sewed as a guide is, and then I'm going to stitch along the edge. All right, so I have that pinned. Let's go on to the next side. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and close this up. I'm actually going to, I'm going to serge these seams together since I didn't serge them before. But really, and it's really not necessary with a knit because knits don't really fray. So you don't need to stitch them, to serge them, but I like clean seams, baby. I like to put my seams towards the back. So if you notice, the back has 2 notches, the front only has 1 notch. So I'm going to put my seams towards the back and fold and use that guide that you created. As your guide. So I'm going to go ahead and sew those seams closed. I'm using a straight stitch, so back stitch. And sew. All right, that's one sleeve. Later on, we'll press this. Let me do the next one. All right, sleeves are ready to go into the dress. They're already hemmed. So let me put those in. So your sleeve is turned right side out. You're gonna put it inside your dress and you're going to match. We're gonna start at the side seams, have them both facing the back, and pin. Then you want to find your one notch in the front. And match that up. Then you want to find your shoulder seam notch. Match that up. And let's find the back notches. Pin those together. Starting at the underarm seam, we're going to start sewing at it with I'm using a zigzag stitch. You can use a stretch stitch. All right, let's go. Make sure that you lay everything out. You don't want any puckers. You don't want your fabric laying on top of each other because you want it to look really good. So one way that you can do it is make sure that you flatten and lay everything out. That way that you know that you're gonna have a really nice seam. Look at that sleeve, looks great, no puckers. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the next sleeve the same exact way. What I'm actually going to do once I'm done attaching the sleeves, I'm gonna serge all the way around the arm circle. Let's do the next sleeve. I like to start at the underarm seam. Let's go. So I've got both of my sleeves attached. I'm gonna go ahead and serge all the way around. And then, what do we have left? The hem and the neckline. And then we'll be done. So I've already attached my sleeves. I'm going to go ahead and hem the bottom of the dress. So I hemmed all around my dress to make sure I didn't miss any stitches. I'm going to go back through and iron this, press it, I should say. My sleeves are attached. Now I'm going to go ahead and attach my neckband. And then all I have to do is attach my buttons and I'm done. Alright guys, we are in the home stretch. I'm doing the neckband. What you want to do is take your neckband and fold it across, and you're going to sew together the short side of your neckband at 1/2 inch seam allowance. Then what you want to do is you can finger press this open. Flip it together, wrong sides together at the seam. And we're going to pin it. Because we are going to pin this to the neckband of our dress. And we're going to be done. All right, let's attach the neckband to our dress. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and attach the neckband to the neck of the dress. So I have already sewn it together and I flipped it wrong sides together so that we see the outside of the dress, of the neckband, excuse me. I'm always trimming as I go along. So here we go. We're gonna match up our back seam. Actually, this is gonna be in the inside of the dress. So match up those seams in the back. Okay, match your seams. Then you want to make sure that you match up your notches. Which I put pins at. This is the center front. I'm sorry, I was trying it on. I got makeup on my dress. So I was trying it on as I was sewing. But anyway, match up your side seams with your notches, which I pinned at. So here is the front of the dress. Pin if you need to. I would. I'm a pinner. Alright guys, this is our final seam, the neckband, because we've already done the arms, we've done the sides. I've already hemmed the dress, so let's do the neckline and then we're done. Let's go. And we're still sewing with a zigzag stitch. And that's it, guys. I've attached my neck. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna serge around the neckband. Then we're done. All right. Start at the center back. It really doesn't matter at this point. That's it. That's the final seam, guys. It's a wrap. And we're finished. Well, I just have to attach the buttons. So I guess I will be sharing with you guys once I attach the buttons to my citrus dress. But she's finished. Thank you guys for hanging out with me today as I sewed my citrus dress for the Sew Your Review Sew Along for October, I will share with you guys a full-on photo of this look. Thank you so much for joining me. Have an amazing day. Bye, guys.